Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are diving headfirst into Swiss contract law. You've given us a fascinating document to work with a section of the Swiss Code of Obligations.
What's so fascinating about it is how old it is.
Yeah.
And how it really shows how legal thinking has developed over time in Switzerland.
A legal time capsule.
I love it.
Okay, so imagine this. You're some hotshot entrepreneur jet-setting around the globe, and you're about to shake hands on some big deal in Zurich.
Right.
But before you do, wouldn't you want to know that Switzerland is really, really specific about what actually makes an agreement official?
Oh, absolutely.
Like down to the wire.
Yeah, the Swiss Code of Obligations really breaks down the anatomy of a contract.
Oh.
Articles 1 through 4 really hammer home that mutual agreement, that offer and acceptance.
That sounds pretty standard so far.
It does.
Yeah.
But then it gets into the timing of it all, and that's where things get a little more interesting.
Okay.
Article 10.
Uh-huh.
This is crucial for anyone because if it's agreed upon face-to-face right there,
Yeah.
that's it.
Done deal.
Done deal. You've got a contract.
Wow.
But if it's hammered out over emails or letters,
Okay.
things get a little more complicated.
I've got
So if you're working with correspondence,
Okay.
it actually becomes binding the moment you send that acceptance,
Oh, wow.
not when it's received,
That's interesting.
which I think really highlights the importance of being a clear communicator in Swiss contract law.
Yeah. Very deliberate about your communication.
Absolutely.
So time really is of the essence here,
It is.
especially in the digital world, right?
Especially in the digital world.
Where things can move so quickly.
So let's say you're in the middle of nailing down this contract.
Right.
And there's a little bit of back and forth, ironing out the details.
Mm-hmm.
But you haven't actually signed on the dotted line yet.
Right.
You haven't gotten to that point.
So this is where Article 16 comes into play because, it deals with those situations where you may not have dotted your I's and crossed your T's, but both parties are acting like the deal is a go.
Right, right.
And so the Swiss legal system recognizes that intention, even if the paperwork hasn't caught up yet.
Interesting.
So that's an important one.
It is. It is.
To keep in mind.
So even before the lawyers finalize everything,
Right.
you could be bound by what's been agreed to.
You could.
Kind of a good thing to keep in mind.
It is right. Especially if you're the one who wants out all of a sudden.
Exactly.
And you thought, oh, it's not official yet.
Right.
But in Switzerland, it kind of is.
Could be, yeah.
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 Interesting. Okay.
It's all about intention.
And sometimes, even before that main contract,
Right.
we have these preliminary discussions about, maybe there's an option to buy or a right of first refusal.
Exactly. Article 22
Okay.
really highlights that these pre-contractual agreements can carry just as much weight
Wow.
as that final contract.
No kidding.
Yeah. And, this is something that people find very surprising.
Right, because they think until it's signed, it's not real.
Exactly.
Right.
But that's not always the case in Switzerland.
It's like that saying, in Switzerland, a verbal agreement is as good as,
Right.
well, a legally binding agreement.
Exactly.
Because they really value that spoken word.
They do.
And that intention.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got all of that going on.
We do.
But as an international business person, you can't always be there in person
Right.
for everything.
Of course not. Yeah.
So how do you handle that? Like if you need someone on the ground
Right.
to sign documents for you or, make decisions.
Well, that's where having a trusted representative comes in.
Okay.
And Articles 32 through 37 cover this concept of agency and power of attorney,
Okay.
which is essentially saying that you can authorize someone else to act on your behalf.
Okay, so I'm essentially giving someone else the power
Exactly.
to step into my shoes
Precisely.
for certain things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is crucial for managing international affairs.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So I could be back here in my New York office.
Right.
But I need someone on the ground in Geneva or something
Exactly.
to handle these things for me.
And these articles spell out how to legally give them that power.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So you've got that covered.
you do.
All right, but what happens when things don't go as planned?
Right.
Let's get into the what ifs
Okay.
and explore what happens when these agreements go south.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's talk breach of contract.
Okay.
What happens if someone just doesn't hold up their end of the bargain?
Right.
We're talking missed deadlines, products that aren't up to snuff,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
So Articles 98 to 109 lay down the law on what happens when a debtor doesn't fulfill their obligations.
Right.
And here's something that might surprise you.
Okay.
Article 103 really emphasizes that
Okay.
even unforeseen circumstances
Okay.
don't automatically let someone off the hook.
So even if there's like a natural disaster
Right.
or something that throws a wrench in the works,
It could still be.
they might still be liable for
Yeah.
damages.
You're still responsible.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good reminder to have like a really solid contingency plan.
Absolutely.
Right.
Always a good idea.
Especially in a country that's known for like,
Yeah.
the occasional alpine snowstorm.
Exactly. Got to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's imagine I'm part of this consortium of investors, and we're all really interested in this prime piece of real estate in Zurich.
I like it.
Right? We're going to, build some big, amazing thing there.
Right.
But we're all pooling our resources together.
Right. Which is a powerful strategy.
It is.
But it comes with its own set of considerations.
Right, because what if one of us backs out or something?
Exactly, and that's where joint obligations come in. Articles 143 to 151 lay out how that whole framework works.
Okay.
And it's particularly relevant for you as an international business person engaging in joint ventures.
Gotcha.
So Article 144 basically states that if one party in a joint obligation doesn't hold up their end of the bargain, the creditor can actually go after any or all of the other debtors for the entire amount.
Wow, so there's no hiding behind the weak link in the chain.
Exactly. You're all on the hook.
Wow. Yeah. So everyone's fully on the hook.
Everyone's fully responsible
to make sure that whole obligation is fulfilled. And that raises the stakes.
It really does. And it really underscores the importance of partnering with reliable people.
Trustworthy.
Because in Switzerland, joint liability is a serious matter.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
All right. Let's shift gears for a second.
Okay.
And talk about a situation where the fate of our contract hinges on a future event.
Right.
Something that might happen, it might not happen.
Right. Something that's uncertain.
Okay.
Right.
So let's say I'm negotiating a deal to import like a very specific type of Swiss watch movement for my latest venture.
Love it.
Right. But I only want to go through with it if the global demand hits a certain level by a specific date.
Okay, so that's a perfect example of what's called a condition precedent.
Okay.
And it's covered by Articles 152 to 156.
Gotcha.
They deal with those if-then scenarios.
Right.
And in your case, if that global demand for those watch movements doesn't reach that level that you've agreed upon by that specific date, the contract is void.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Interesting.
No harm, no foul.
It's like building an escape hatch.
Exactly.
Into the agreement.
That's a great way to put it.
Just in case things don't go as projected.
Yeah, you've got an out.
I like it. I like it.
But here's the thing. What if one of the parties tries to sabotage the deal to get out of it?
Wow, okay.
So they could try to
like intentionally prevent that condition from being met?
Exactly.
Wow, sneaky.
Right, and that's where Article 156 comes in.
Okay.
Because it acts as a safeguard against those bad faith maneuvers.
Oh, so you can't just pull the rug out from under the deal.
You can't deliberately interfere just to weasel your way out.
It's like saying, look, we agreed to this condition.
Exactly.
So you can't just back out now.
You have to play fair.
Yeah.
You can't manipulate the situation.
I like how the Swiss Code of Obligations has a clause for everything.
It's incredibly thorough.
Yeah, it is.
It really tries to cover all the bases.
That's good. That's good.
Now let's talk about those just-in-case scenarios where a contract goes sour and someone needs a little financial nudge to make things right.
Practical incentive.
Yeah, you're talking about liquidated damages, which Article 163 covers.
Okay.
So imagine this. You've signed a contract with a Swiss manufacturer to produce a limited run of high-end electronics.
I like it.
And the contract includes a liquidated damages clause that says for every week they're late, they owe you a certain percentage of the contract value.
Okay, so it's
as compensation.
Yeah, it's like a built-in incentive for both parties.
And absolutely.
To stick to the agreed-upon timeline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Keeps everyone honest.
Yeah, it does.
Now, let's say you need to transfer your rights under a contract to somebody else.
Okay.
So you're essentially saying, hey, to this other party, you're now the lucky recipient of this contract.
Okay, so for example, let's say I have this contract with a Swiss dairy farm.
Okay.
To supply me with a year's worth of Gruyere cheese.
I like where this is going.
Right. But then, like, my business takes off.
Yeah.
And I need to find a new distributor who can handle that kind of volume.
So you want to transfer that cheese contract to them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's called assignment of claims.
Okay.
And it's covered under Articles 164 to 170.
Gotcha.
And in that cheese scenario, you wouldn't necessarily need the dairy farm's permission to transfer your right to receive the cheese.
Okay.
Unless, of course, there was a clause in there that said you couldn't.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Right.
They could write that in.
They could.
Okay.
But generally, you can transfer that, right, to receive the cheese.
But what about the dairy farm?
Right. What about them?
Don't they deserve some protection in case they've already, like,
of course,
fulfilled their obligations?
And that's what Article 167 addresses.
Okay.
So the debtor who is acting in good faith doesn't get penalized for fulfilling their original obligations.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Even if it's before they've been notified.
That's good. Because otherwise that would be...
It wouldn't be fair.
Yeah, a whole thing.
Yeah, it'd be a mess.
Exactly. So it's all about maintaining fairness throughout this process.
Fairness and clarity.
Yeah.
Really important in Swiss contract law.
Which is good?
It is good. It's reassuring.
It's reassuring.
Especially if you're doing business there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Now let's flip the script and talk about the other side of assignment.
Okay.
Where instead of transferring, you're actually taking on somebody else's obligations.
Interesting.
This is where it gets really interesting.
All right. Okay. So I'm not transferring contract. I'm like stepping into someone else's shoes.
Exactly.
And inheriting the rights and the responsibilities.
It's kind of like inheriting a business, but with contracts instead of like family heirlooms.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So Articles 175 to 183 cover this whole concept called assumption of debt.
Assumption of debt. Okay.
Which is the legal term for that scenario. Okay.
So imagine a situation where you're acquiring a Swiss company.
Okay.
As part of your,
international expansion.
International expansion.
Right.
You might assume their existing contracts.
Okay.
And basically take over their obligations to suppliers or clients or even employees.
So it's like I'm the new conductor of an orchestra, right?
That's a great analogy.
I am inheriting the musicians and the instruments and like the concert schedule.
I love it.
But what if that assumption agreement goes wrong?
Right. Well, Article 180 addresses those situations where it's deemed invalid.
Okay.
And in those cases, it's almost like you hit the rewind button.
Okay.
And the original debtor's obligations are resurrected.
Interesting.
Along with their associated rights.
Gotcha.
Okay. For any impacts it might have had on uninvolved third parties.
Right. So we don't want to like mess up anyone else's.
Yeah. We want to try to keep it as clean as possible.
So it's back to the original contract. Like the assumption never happened.
Essentially. Yeah.
But accounting for any ripple effects that might have happened.
Exactly. It's all about fairness.
Fairness. Yes.
As always.
Okay. All right. So let's shift gears again a little bit.
Yeah.
And talk about a fundamental aspect of commerce.
Got it.
Buying and selling.
The heart of it all.
The heart of it all.
Whether I'm sourcing raw materials for my next big thing or just picking up a souvenir.
Exactly.
In the streets of Zurich.
You need to know.
I can understand.
The ins and outs of sales contracts.
Sales contracts, okay.
Articles 184 to 222.
Okay.
They're dedicated to this.
Gotcha.
And they provide a really robust framework for these transactions.
So what is Article 184?
Article 184 is a great place to start.
Okay.
Because it really lays out the core obligations of the buyer and the seller.
The buyer and the seller, like the legal handshake.
Exactly.
Outlining who does what.
Precisely.
And when.
So for instance, let's say you're negotiating a deal to purchase
a
large quantity of some precision components from a Swiss supplier.
Okay, I like it.
Article 184 would dictate that they are obligated.
The supplier's obligated.
Yeah, the supplier's obligated to deliver those components according to the agreed upon specs.
Makes sense.
And you, as the buyer, are obligated to pay the agreed upon price.
Easy peasy, right?
Sounds pretty straightforward.
It does, but we know things aren't always so simple.
They rarely are.
They're not.
What if something goes wrong with the order?
Right.
What kind of recourse do you have as the buyer?
Exactly. And this is where
we get into like
warranty comes in. Okay. And that's covered under Articles 197 to 210.
Right.
And these articles protect you, the buyer, from any hidden defects.
Oh, okay.
Or issues that really diminish the value of that item.
So like let's say those precision components show up.
Okay.
but they aren't.
They're not up to snuff.
Yeah, they're not the quality that we agreed on.
Right. And it causes all these delays.
It's a nightmare.
And disruption. My whole production line is stopped.
Exactly. And so in that case,
yeah,
you could potentially make a warranty claim against that Swiss supplier.
To get my money back.
To recover your losses.
Yeah, or at least some of it.
And Article 197 is very clear.
Oh.
The seller is responsible.
For ensuring that the item is...
is free from those flaws.
Free from flaws, okay.
Now, switching gears a bit.
Okay.
Imagine you're interested in a piece of property.
Okay.
But it comes with a right of first refusal.
What does that mean?
So that means that somebody else has the first dibs on buying it.
Gotcha.
If it's put up for sale.
Interesting. So I could be really interested.
You could be very interested.
But someone else holds the keys.
They hold the keys.
To my destiny here.
To whether or not you can actually acquire that property.
Interesting.
And that's where Article 216C comes in.
Okay.
Because it addresses those preemptive rights, including rights of first refusal.
And it protects me, right?
It protects both the holder of that right and potential buyers like yourself.
So the seller has to keep me in the loop.
They do. They're obligated to inform you about any offers that are made.
So I know what's going on.
Yeah. So you have the opportunity to exercise your right to purchase first.
It's like having a VIP ticket.
Exactly.
At the real estate market.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay. You
get to skip the line.
I do. All right.
You're at the front.
I like it.
Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But one last question for you. We've talked about what happens when contracts are formed, when they're broken, when they're transferred to other people.
Yep.
What happens when time itself becomes a factor?
Yeah, that's a question.
If a dispute arises, how long do you have to actually take action?
Right. Are we talking like a statute of limitations?
Exactly. We're talking about statutes of limitations.
Right.
And Article 127 is key.
Okay.
In Switzerland, the general statute of limitations for most contractual claims is 10 years.
10 years, okay.
Which means you have 10 years from the date of the breach to initiate legal proceedings.
There was like a legal countdown.
Exactly. It's a countdown clock.
Okay. So after 10 years...
The door might be closed.
Whoa.
You really don't want to miss that window.
All right. That's crucial information.
It is.
For anyone doing business in Switzerland?
Absolutely.
Don't want to miss that window.
Don't miss that deadline.
I won't.
And remember, while we have explored some key aspects of the Swiss Code of Obligations, it's always recommended to seek professional legal advice.
Of course.
Tailored to your specific circumstances.
Or your specific needs.
This deep dive was really just to give you...
a good overview.
The good overview, yeah.
Yeah.
It's essential to consult with an expert who can really...
Who knows the ins and outs.
Yeah, who knows the ins and outs.
All right, well, there you have it.
A
whirlwind tour.
A crash course.
Through the intricate world.
The fascinating world.
Of Swiss contract law.
There you go.
And some practical tips.
For
anyone navigating this very unique business landscape.
It is a unique one.
It is.
But as we've seen, it's really all about promoting clarity.
And that level playing field.
That
we talk about.
Yes,
and knowledge is power.
As always.
Keep exploring.
Keep
learning.
And
keep diving deep.
Absolutely.
With the deep dive.
Until next time.
See you later.